right. Well, today we are having a very special episode with a very special person, an amazing friend of mine. Do you mind if I say your name?
That's okay.
Mike, Mr. Mike Dobbs. And the reason that Mike and I are here, and we'll have another of my very dear friends joining us, well, about halfway into the radio show, is because we're going to talk about surviving death. Now, that sounds like a big topic, but there is no better person to talk about this and to give us all hope and to give us all an insight into how the humanity, the holism, the spirit, soul, mind, body, remember, not mind, body, spirit at the last, but spirit, soul, mind, body works and how just how powerful it is. Now, without further ado, and we don't have a whole lot of time, but I think we have enough well, to get the concept of what's going on, because your story is fascinating. I mean, you could talk for days and years, as a matter of fact. You have enough to share on many aspects, but let's talk about near death and your journey. Mike?
Okay, my most recent journey started on vacation, of all things, on the beach. And this happened about a month ago, and I was having a wonderful time on, I guess I could say the name, on Captiva Island, Florida. And it was on a Tuesday, and I had a wonderful day with a friend of mine, and we had rented a boat and was out in the back bay and having an incredible day, honestly. And I was, it kind of got tired that day, and then we came in and had a nice night, and I says, well, time for bed. So went to bed, thought everything was great, and for some reason, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't breathe. And when I say I couldn't breathe, I mean I literally could not breathe. I couldn't draw breath, and it was like somebody was strangling me. And I tried to breathe, I tried to draw breath and couldn't do it, and it scared me to death. And I got up and I didn't know what to do. I surely panicked, and I ran into the next room where my friend was staying. I go, and it was Nick, and I go, Nick, you've got to call 911. I can't breathe, and I didn't know what was going on, and of course I was frightened to death, and I was trying everything I could to draw breath, but I couldn't do it, and it was like I was drowning, and I ran into the living room, and the only thing I could think of, I've got to get a breath, and I couldn't, and I just kept sitting there trying to say help, help the best I could, and I remember looking at Nick and thinking, you've got to get me some help somehow. I can't breathe. And to be honest with you, that's the last thing I remember. I wish I could say I remembered more, but I didn't, because I was pretty panicked at that point. And that's all I remember at that moment. And it was pretty frightening, to be brutally honest with you. And then I woke up basically 4 days later in a hospital with intubation tubes down my throat, and they woke me up, and I with intubation tubes down there. I kept, oh my God, I'm gagging, and I at the time 3 doctors around me that says, Mike, you're alive. Don't worry about the tubes down your throat. We're trying to see if you can breathe on your own. And I was really confused because you don't remember what happened to you. At least I couldn't remember what happened to me. And they said, we're going to take the tubes out of your throat, but we've got to see if you can breathe on your own. And I tried to control my fear at that point. It says, okay, well, I have to trust these people. So I was up for about 5 minutes, and then they pulled the tube out of my throat, which is a pretty painful process. And I could breathe on my own. And all I could remember thinking of what just happened. And they said, well, we can tell you one thing, that you're alive. We didn't expect that to be the case. And I kind of looked at him like, I'm not real sure I know what you're talking about. And I kind of looked over at him and said, well, do you remember anything that happened to you? And I says, it seemed like I remember getting out of bed and not being able to breathe. And they says, well, apparently that's what started happening. And then they kind of went into the whole story and how all happened. I had gotten out of bed, couldn't breathe, ran into my friend Nick's room and says, "You've got to get me help. You've got to call 911. I can't breathe." And I fell to the floor. And Nick had told him that was turning blue and my body started wreathing around. And he said I could just barely hear help, help, help coming out of your mouth. And he said, then you just
Ms.
went dead
Schultz,
silent.
can I have
And he
you
said
call
it
right
scared me
back
to
in,
death.
and then I'm going to put you
We
back
called
on hold.
911, and by I guess
Thank you.
due to my own luck, about a mile and a half down the road, even though I was on an island, was a fire department. And he said he heard the fire engine coming down the road and stopped in front of where we were staying. And 3 firemen had come into the house and it started, he said, working on me. And he said they were pushing into my chest and sticking needles in anywhere they could get needles and trying to stick tube down my throat. And he said they had sit there for about 30 minutes, just nonstop, trying to get me to breathe. And he said your color was leaving your body. And he said they were obviously frightened themselves. And he said it wasn't probably 30, 45 minutes after the fireman got there, he heard another ambulance, he heard another siren. An ambulance had got there with 4 people inside the ambulance, I guess that were EMTs, come into the house. And he said he was frightened to death. And he sat there and for about 20 minutes watched 7 people working on me. And he says he didn't know what to do. He said he was scared to death that I had passed. And he says they had worked on me enough. They put me on a gurney, put me into the ambulance. I'd driven about a mile down the beach. And he said they stopped. And he says he had no idea why they stopped. And about that time, he heard a helicopter overhead. And he said he couldn't figure out what was going on. But at that time, the back of the ambulance opened up. They took the gurney, I guess, out of the back of the ambulance with me on it, had put me into the helicopter and flew off. And the ambulance told them where I was going. And they told him how to get there. And then he drove to the hospital. And the ambulance, I guess the helicopter had taken me to a hospital that was on the mainland. And they had life flighted me to a really good hospital. And that's all that he knew about at that point. And by the time he got there, he ran in and talked to the emergency room, and they told him that they didn't expect me to survive, and it kind of frightened him.
I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
We had a code. We had several codes in the emergency room where we work. I work in 5 minutes brain death.
Yeah.
You were down for over 40 minutes.
Right.
And you're talking, you're walking. Actually, Mike, one thing about Mike is that he's actually a wonderful professional in addition to being an amazing friend, an amazing person. And actually, Mike, despite all that, and you've had actually a number of bad things happen, throughout this last several months, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Actually, let's recount some of the things that you've been through: surgeries, complications. I mean,
Yeah.
this man here is a miracle. That much I can tell. So let's talk a little bit about your previous near-death experiences and surviving that.
About 2.5 years ago, I had what's called massive pulmonary edema. Once again in the middle of my sleep, I woke up. Similar kind of experience. I was at my hometown in Springfield. I woke up at the side of my bed and couldn't breathe again. And I kind of freaked out and says, "Oh my gosh, I can't breathe. I don't know why." And I sat at the side of my bed, and I told myself, "This is it. This is this is when I leave the earth." And I looked around my room and I looked at my favorite paintings I had on my walls, and I said, "This is the last thing I'm going to get to see." And that's the only thing that was in my head at that point is I'm going to see my favorite paintings, and this is what death is about.
Do you remember? No, you've had several classic prolonged near-death experiences. Things that science doesn't have explanation for what you went through.
Right.
There is no explanation. Plus, you've had a bunch of other medical complications, including the heart, lungs,
Right.
Surgical. There's a number of various things, vascular. Actually, Mike, what you've been through in the last half a year has been basically hell.
Yeah.
Hell and back. And yet you're here talking, walking, you're doing more than Your numbers would tell you're doing. So the beautiful, interesting thing about this whole thing, and I want to talk about not just the bad things, but I want to talk about the good things. Now, and by the way, do you remember anything from the near death? Anything about the lights, and how people describe a near death experience?
I wish I could say I did, but I really didn't. People have asked me that numerous times that I've had several. Actually, I've had two death experiences because both times when I was taken into the hospital, I wasn't breathing. They couldn't get my heart to beat, and I wasn't taking any breaths. The last time, a month ago, they have a protocol in Florida that if your body temperature is above a certain degree, they have to take drastic measures to try and recoup life. If it drops below a certain degree, they pronounce death.
Mm-hmm.
I was at that threshold.
Right at the number.
I was at the number.
Oh my God.
And they couldn't resuscitate my heart. I hadn't breathed. I did not have a heartbeat for a prolonged period of time when I was in the helicopter. They could not resuscitate my heart. I wasn't breathing. When they brought me into the emergency room, my body temperature had greatly dropped and I was blue.
Let's talk about the factors that got you through, because we can talk. I wish we had all day to discuss that, and we actually, I'd love to sit and talk actually a little bit in more detail. But what do you attribute in your mind to you surviving all of these incredible, impossible things, so to speak? Because physically, what you've gone through, what you've been through, it doesn't make any sense medically. No.
I love life. I'm one of these kind of people where I truly, truly, truly love life. I get up every morning and I think I'm the luckiest person on the earth that I fought to be alive. I don't take it for granted. I don't just pass it off, another day. I feel like every day that I'm alive, it's the luckiest day I've ever had. So, and I take every day like that. I really do.
Gratitude.
Right.
Presence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the essence of the holism: spirit, soul, mind, body. Mike, we had these conversations before. What's your understanding of yourself as a human being? What is your identity? Because we always talk about not just spirit, mind, body, spirit. Spirit being the last somewhere. If you have time for it, great. If not, don't worry about it. Again, that's the trouble with a healthcare system. That's the trouble with an integrative, because it doesn't go all the way. You've done your whole life is a miracle.
Yeah.
So the factors here at play are absolutely incredible. How do you feel about the spirit, soul, mind, body versus?
I feel a lot about this. I feel like, I have something I obviously have to offer people, or I wouldn't be here by now. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be somewhere, you'd be looking at a headstone and thinking, he's a great guy,
But, by the way, you are a great guy.
Thanks. But I just feel like I need to teach people that, feel lucky to be here, and you have to fight to be alive. You have to, it's worth the fight, and I tell people all the time, you know what, don't invite me to your pity party because I'm not going to come.
Boom. Perfect.
I don't believe in that. I believe that every day that you're alive is the best day you ever had. And if you don't make it the best day you ever had, you don't deserve it. And I truly believe that.
It's fascinating. 40% of the United States population is clinically depressed.
Right.
Another 40% is subclinically depressed. In other words, they're not fully living their life. And a whole bunch of other folks are basically just surviving. They're not enjoying the gift of life. How does it look from your perspective, having been to wherever you've been?
I really do feel like I'm probably one of the luckiest people on the earth. I really do, because there are so many things that I could have taken and should have taken my life away from me. And that is truly honest. I've had 20 heart operations. I have 20 stents in my heart. I've had 2 heart operations. I've had 2 open heart surgeries. I have had 4 massive strokes when they thought there's no way that I should have gained any of my body structure or any of my mechanical structure back. I have complete.
You're not missing anything.
I'm not missing anything.
Wow.
I've had severe brain damage caused by swelling. My brain swell that was caused by chickenpox virus going into my spine and hitting my brain. I've had 4 strokes that completely paralyzed and cut off any activity on the left side of my body, but yet I have full control over my entire body. Every time I come back, full blast. And it's because I know I want to live. I love life, and I want to teach people that everybody's got a chance if you just believe in it. You just believe it.
Yes, 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 yes. That's exactly the kind of message I want to bring forth. There's a lot of problems in this world. There's a lot of physical problems, social problems, economic problems. There's all you can name it. The healthcare system is falling apart, but it's not up to the healthcare system. It's up to us.
Right.
It's the passion. It's the life. It's the drive. Actually, I've had a couple of miracle stories, but none quite as powerful as yours. And actually, to speak of some of my personal experiences, I did have several near-death experiences of my own out of body as well. Mine was a little different. It's at some point, and again, just as my subjective personal experience, I'm not talking from the perspective of having science and proof of everything else, but this is my story. So one of my car accidents, I was basically floating above the bloody mess down below. It was a pretty terrible accident. This was a number of years ago, and just wondering, wow, how interesting. That looks terrible. And then realizing that's Sergey down there. And wait, if that's Sergey, who am I? Who is observing? Who is in charge? Who is aware? And so that's when I first became fully aware of the fact that I am a spirit. I am a soul. And speaking of that, when I came back into the mess of a physical body, that wasn't pleasant to come back in, but it wasn't even so much a choice. It was like, okay, I want to go back in. It was just, okay, I know I'm doing this. Now time to face the consequences and do whatever I need to do. And by the way, I was recovered fully. Again, same thing. I had several of those incidents. The bottom line is, and this is something I'd like to talk about. We're going to have a guest join us, one of my dearest friends. She's actually one of my spiritual guide, advisor. When anytime I'm at crossroads, and whenever she calls in, and we'll give her a couple of minutes. That's fine. I have Lenka who is coming to us, and are we on?
I think so. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi. You are on board. Hi. How are you? Wonderful. Can I give a small introduction, or would you like to kind of mention a few things about yourself, just the essentials? Because you can talk about. There's so much we can talk about you, and there's a reason you're here on the show. So just to kind of jump in, Lenka this is what we call intuologist. She's somebody who specializes in intuition and helping people reach their soul, spirit, their purpose, their essence, and how to change their life for the better. There's a lot more I can say about this, and she's actually working on a wonderful degree as well in this field, and it's pretty close to being done. There's a book that's already that's out there. Love it. But I'd love to have your input and your perspective on what you've heard. Have you been able to listen to our conversation so far?
Hi, Sergey. Yes, absolutely. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
It's such a pleasure. Yes, I enjoyed very much the story of Mike. And, Sergey, I have so many questions for Mike. And one of them would be, you have so much you went through. And the question is, why? Why does your soul keep repeating the same pattern? Why don't you just have one experience? Why do you have 2, 3, 4? What are you not listening to? Like you were saying, you came here to teach us something, but you don't know that yet. That's why you keep having these experiences.
I believe that when you truly learn what you're on this earth for, I believe that it's when you leave the earth. I think that that's the reason that we're on this earth, is to learn these things. And once you learn them and you teach them to other people, then I think that your time on earth is up. And that's why some people can leave this earth at 3 years old, and some people will leave this earth at 103 years old. I think that That's why we're on this earth, is to learn that
Well-
and to be able to teach.
If that's the case, Mike, I'm going to ask you one thing. Don't learn everything all at once.
No.
Stick around for a while longer, or a lot longer.
Right.
Yeah, please.
If I understand your answer, which by the way, I very much love your answer, you teaching us how to die with grace and love, knowing it's not over yet.
Right.
And then you're doing this over and over and over to teach people is that we are here, like you said, to teach and to learn to teach. And so you do not have to be afraid. Because when I'm looking at you, you are the joyous person I have ever seen. I mean, you have a permanent smile on your face.
Oh, absolutely, I do.
Yes, and so that's maybe what you came here to show us, is that what a joy is to live, and it's fine to tap into the other world, because if it's not your time, you will be back.
Right, exactly. And I had this, I heard this once, and it means so much to me that if you wake up a day and you walk out into the world and you just smile at one person that needs a smile, then at one point, what you've helped do is to teach that person to smile at somebody else who needs a smile. And if you do that and you've really brought it forward, by the end of the day, so many people will be smiling, then you've really done something.
I'd like to jump in with a question for us, and I'm sure there's so many questions. A lot of people are afraid of death, or basically, even if we don't say it out loud, but there's a lot of fear in our society. There's only one force, I shouldn't say only one, but the strongest force that overcomes fear is the force of love. And I want to talk about that. Mike, what's your perspective on the force of love, and versus other things?
I think that love is the strongest force in the world there is. I think that, but first you got to do the hardest thing in the world, and that is, and I tell people this all the time, that you have to be able to look in the mirror and say, I love you. I love you. I love you. And that is the hardest thing that the human being can do. And very few people on this earth have been able to do that. And you got to do that every day in your life. Just look in that mirror and say, I love you. And whenever you can do that, then you've really gained something that God put us on this earth to do.
We're going to go to a commercial break in just less than a minute, but for those of us who are on YouTube and Facebook Live, stay on. We're going to continue the conversation, and we'll continue into the second half. And if you're not on YouTube and Facebook Live, then join us, because you're missing a lot of good stuff here. If you're just listening to the radio in the 2 segments, there's a lot of stuff that happens during the breaks and at the end of the show. So please do join us on that. But if you're listening just even on the radio, that is absolutely fine. And in just a little bit, we're going to go to commercial break, and that'll give us a few more minutes, and we're going to continue the conversation.
Hang on just a second. Okay, we're clear.
And we are back. Now, so we're going to stay on, and Bianca, please, I love your questions. And this is, by the way, these are the type of questions that you ask me. And, exactly, and, it gets even harder than that, by the way. But I love that. I mean, this is, I have no pride, I have nothing to prove here. I mean, I'm just here to be the best person I can. So I love the tough questions. I love to, somebody who challenges me to dive down to my very soul, to understand who I am and to take the right action consistent with my true purpose, true nature. But let's continue the conversation, because we still have some time.
Well, you know how much I love words, and I feel that words have power. And if I can add a little humble opinion of mine, when you guys use the word force of love, it just doesn't really resonate with me, because force is a force. I like the power of love.
Mm-hmm.
It's the power versus love, right? Love versus power, like Dr. Hawkins wrote the book about. And I feel is that, well, you don't have to force, and it's not a force. It's all around us. It's literally floating around. We just have to tap into it to be that. You don't have to do that. We just be that. And my question to you, Mike, is from my own experience with clients who came through that state of consciousness, they have a very hard time coming back to quote earth, because they have such an elevated view of the world that people
Yeah.
Share with us, how is it to function into that normal, normal lifestyle that people live, and you come down like a single bell flying around with your, low vibration. How is that for you?
It makes me, one thing I love about what I feel is I want to spread it and I want to teach other people how to feel like what I feel like. And I feel like I fought hard to feel what I feel, and I'm very lucky to feel what I feel and what I believe in and what I actually experienced because of things that have happened to me. And if I could teach other people to feel what I feel and to feel love and to be able, like I said, to look in that mirror and say, I love you, then if you can teach other people to do that and show them it's okay to feel that way, then you really done something. And whether it's a Tinkerbell moment or whatever it is, that's what we're here on this earth to do, I feel, is to teach people how to do it.
Mike, I am so grateful for what you said. That's what I'm going to be repeating over and over. I fought so hard to feel. And Sergey, we share one thing about ourselves, that coming from communism, you don't feel.
Right.
Keep the feelings out of you. And the feelings, I agree with you, Mike, it is the doorway to love. Without feeling even the anger or frustration, if you don't feel it, you're never going to be able to feel love. So that's what I even teach my people, is like, please feel even not so good vibrations. Feel it, because that is the doorway to feel love. Thank you for that, because I love that how you said it. I fought so hard to feel.
Okay, yeah, because that, not everything in life is easy, but because things aren't easy doesn't mean they're not good, and that's what we all have to learn, that not everything in life is easy, and I'll through all the different medical things I have, people say all the time, Mike, how do you do it? And a doctor told me one thing that really meant a lot to me, that the human body does not have the ability to remember pain. No matter how bad the pain is, you can't remember it.
We're coming back in a minute.
And
I want to know where you heard that, because that is a huge elevation.
by the way, let's continue the same topic on the radio, because a lot of our folks that are not on YouTube and Facebook, and we're going to come back in just a second. But please, let's remember, let's go over that again.
About 30 seconds, but go
About
ahead.
30 seconds here
Yeah.
to go. But I do want to say, I am so blessed. I am honored to have such an amazing company, because Mike's story is powerful, amazing. For anybody who forgot the meaning of life, listen carefully. And of course, we had this back conversation with all of us here. It's well, we're going to come back in just a few seconds, and
About 15 seconds.
round two.
Just about 15 seconds here. Go ahead.
And welcome back. So, just a reminder, if you're just joining us now, this is the time for questions on anything and everything, from literally from cataracts and hemorrhoids to the spiritual awakening to alien encounters. We take all kinds of questions, literally, as you can see by the topic, surviving death. So this is not your typical show here. The call-in number is 417-447-1777, and this is actually a wonderful opportunity, not just to talk to me and hear my perspectives, but also to hear from Mike and his, amazing, incredible journey of surviving death multiple times and teaching people how to live. And that's the key. And then, of course, my wonderful friend and advisor, spiritual advisor, who's on the phone line with us, Lenka, who's joining us from Florida. And we're going to continue our conversation, but if at any point there's any kind of medical or any other question, and obviously we're focusing on spirituality, soul, spirit, soul, mind, body. But any question goes, but in the meantime, we'll continue talking, and all between the three of us. Now, the topic, the last topic of conversation, let's come back to that, because we haven't quite finished that. So, Mike, please.
Right.
Yeah, actually, who was leading the question? Lenka, was it you, or? Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
I had a question that Mike was saying, that our body does not remember the pain. want to know where the study or who said that, because it is complete opposite of what we hear on the mainstream. They're telling us that the data is so deeply rooted in our mind, in our subconscious mind, in our cellular memory. So what you say is completely opposite, and that would be potentially a huge elevation in our healing. So please share with us. Where did you hear this, and where did that information came from?
I had a doctor. It actually happened during my first open heart surgery. I don't know if you've ever had open heart surgery. It's actually it saves your life, but it's a very brutal surgery. They saw your chest in half, and then they crack a bunch of your ribs, and they spread your chest up and to get to your heart, and it's pretty brutal. And I was afraid, I was scared to death when the first one I had, I had fear, and they had a doctor look down and he says, "You gotta remember that God placed something into your brain that does not let you remember the pain that you're suffering." And I kept thinking, well, that's an interesting thing for somebody to say.
I actually, you know what, as you said that, I actually don't know what you're talking about. I think, okay, I'm not know at all, but okay, so they say that when people go through a traumatic experience, if it's a murder, it's a rape, it's a surgery, or whatever that is, that your soul actually escapes the body, and that's why you don't remember it. Is that something that resonates?
Yeah, that was something that resonates because I think back now and I've had some pretty brutal surgeries. I can't remember the pain. I know it hurt at the time. I can tell you that much, but I try and think back. Okay, how did it hurt, or what part of me hurt, or how bad was it? I just can't remember it.
By the way, I do want to say that as we're having this wonderful discussion, if there's any phone calls coming in or questions, and all three of us are here to answer the question, so please let's bring the question on, and in the meantime we'll keep talking if there's none.
And they just hung up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Call back.
Please call back. We want to hear from you. This is wonderful. Please let's continue in the meantime.
Okay.
Yeah. But please let me know when somebody wants to get through. Please. Yeah. Call us back.
Here we go.
Okay. Here we are.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. Are you there?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see if we can try again or we can connect.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we'll continue with the thread. We'll continue with the conversation, and
Okay.
this is are we on now?
Okay. How about
Okay. Trial number 3. Let's go. Yep. Hi. How are you?
Dr. Sorin?
that? Yes.
Ma'am, how are you?
I have a question about hearing.
Earrings. Yep.
Especially, with adults, but also especially with children, because I know it's so painful.
Mm.
What do you do instead of antibiotics?
Okay. Most ear infections don't need antibiotics. That's the thing. What we do in the office is there's a reverse stethoscope. Instead of listening to something, the ozone, which is an O3 molecule, flows into the ears and that just cleans things out. If you're not near Springfield, where we can do that here in the office, there is also you can do things like viscous lidocaine and things of that nature, and most things with the ears will actually resolve themselves. Now, it depends. Is it a sinus infection? If it's associated with the pressure in the face and the frontal sinuses, or otherwise, if there's any kind of fever, if there's other components. But frequently, the most common thing is allergies and the immune system. And for that, the biggest thing is maintain your immune system, take care of yourself, lifestyle. In other words, nutrition, activity, stress management, sleep, rest, take care of yourself, baseline, stress management. Chances of bad things happening, if you do all the right things, less likely. Of course, proper supplementation, and then there's medical stuff. Now, there is a nasal steroid on the conventional side that I would normally prescribe, which can decrease the pressure from the eustachian tubes. It's called eustachian tube dysfunction, and it works pretty well. But if it's a continuous recurring thing, you have to get to the root cause of it. That's the holistic approach. I hope I answered your question.
Okay. And the same thing for like a sore throat or something for a baby.
Yes. Babies actually especially frequently have reflux, GERD, all sorts of stuff. But, sometimes with the upper respiratory, postnasal, and things of that nature. I think with babies, I try to stay away from medicines and antibiotics and things of that nature if possible, because it's a question of their own immune system kicking in. And if we do all the right things, as I mentioned, lifestyle and all the support of the normal structures, it should not be a permanent situation. But there are specialists for ear, nose, throat, and otherwise, and sometimes I do utilize that when appropriate.
And the last thing, and I don't know if you said at the beginning, because I came in a little bit late, was how Dr. Shealy doing?
Let's talk about Dr. Shealy. Dr. Shealy is doing a little better, but he still has his moments when he's not feeling great. I saw him in the clinic today. He was getting an intravenous vitamin C, which is wonderful because it maintains the immune system. It helps with a number of other functions, but he's not in the powering condition to join us yet. As soon as he is, I want to get him on the radio, back on the radio.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah. So, unless we have another question, and please let me know, let's continue on our discussion because what we're talking here is so much bigger than physical. So much bigger. So, let's please continue. I kind of lost track of where we were on the last point, but maybe we can start from any given point at this point. Now, Lenka, I know you already always have something on your mind, something good in Mike as well. So, let's jump back in, please.
Yes, because the pain is physical manifestation of people, and that's why they call in your radio, and that's why they come into your clinic.
Mhm.
This is something that we should potentially ponder on a little bit longer.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to make a point here that Mike was saying as well, and I'm seeing it from a broader perspective, how we can actually guide other people to understand that there's no need to fear pain, because if you are truly quote unquote supposed to feel the pain and you choose not to, the soul will step in. It will remove your physical conscious mind out of that element. You just want to become the partner with the soul. If you want to do it consciously, if you don't do it consciously, then the soul will take over, just like Mike said, and then he does not remember the pain, and now it makes sense because the soul steps in and then removes itself from that. So that is even many of professionals, Dr. Sarno, healing back pain, even stated in his 20 years of practice that the pain is all in the head.
Absolutely.
In the head.
I'll just jump in real quick. My last car accident, and I hope this is the last. Well, certainly by my doing, because I don't want to make a habit of this kind of stuff. I had a broken lumbar third. I was up about 15 feet in the air, came down. Pure miracle, I'm still alive. Paralyzed, basically nearly paralyzed from the waist down, and the car was not in a good place. I mean, there was actually smoke coming through, and it was just it was a mess. So I knew I had to get out of the vehicle, and somehow, just on the point of pain, I managed to step out of the vehicle, undo everything, and just kind of take enough steps forward, so that if the car blew up, that I would, well, who knows? But only then did I had to experience an extreme discomfort and pain, and I had to lay down. And thank God there were people there to help me. But you're absolutely right. The soul and the spirit steps in, and this is not the first or the last. Well, it's not the first of my injuries. I don't want any more. Let's put it that way. But do we have a question?
We have another caller.
Okay, wonderful.
Go ahead.
Yep. Hi. Are you? Hi. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Here's a question for you. My friend that is in their 40s and has constant buzzing, ringing in the ears. Several doctors, the doctors all say it is not tinnitus. There's nothing we can do about it.
It sounds like some kind of a similar process. Could be inner ear, middle ear. I think a combination of air and fire bliss is worth a shot. It could take up to several months. That's a combination of essential oils applied to acupuncture points, fire and air bliss.
Okay.
That's definitely, I would do that before anything else. Safe.
Okay. What about biogenic training?
Wonderful. Biogenics training, by the way, is... Thank you for mentioning that. Biogenics is a program developed by Dr. Shealy back in the 70s and has been enhanced. And the entire purpose of biogenics is self-regulation and ascension. Literally, it's to get a person from a condition of illness or disease, disorder, to I'm okay, and then it's meant to take you to I'm great. And this is where Mike is, because Mike is not just okay. Mike is great. He has not only overcome, like we had this conversation, he had basically, you have every risk factor not to be here, and or to be incapacitated or disability of some sort. You're not. You're fully present. So that is a huge factor. That's, again, I may be slightly different question, but I do want to say this. Spirit, soul, mind, body. We are spiritual beings, we are soul, and then we have the healing comes from within. Everything that we ever need, we have inside of us. Now, do we need resources? Does it help to have access to professionals who know the map, who have tools? Yes, it's wonderful. But ultimately, it's not me who heals a person. It's the person who allows the healing from within. I may not have answered your question. If not, please remind me.
Okay, so biogenics would be beneficial also, you think?
Wonderful. Biogenics is a self-retraining. It teaches you how to be in charge of your body, mind, soul, spirit, and how to remember who you are. One of the exercises, as a matter of fact, is I have a physical body. I am more than my physical body. I have my mind, my thoughts, my emotions. By the way, emotions, energy, and motion. Very powerful. Thank you, Lenka, for saying that. I am more than that. We are more than that. We are spiritual beings, soul, in the physical body, having an opportunity to do something wonderful, preferably wonderful. And that's why we're here. Biogenics teaches you all that, and there's over 68 various exercises. It's not the only way to go, but it's one of the most powerful that I know. Yes, it's actually available, biogenicscourse.com. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, and then fire or blood you recommend?
Fire and air bliss, absolutely. And they each have other benefits of their own, but it certainly can help with that as well.
Fire and air blood.
And air, yep, two of those. You got it. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yep. And now we're back to our discussion, unless there's any other phone calls. So let's jump back in.
One of the things I always want to talk to people about when people talk to me about my different experiences I've had and the fact that I've all but lost my life numerous times. I think the power of being able to love yourself is one of the biggest powers that very few people on this earth, to me, that's one of the reasons I think we're all on this earth, is to be able to love ourselves and to teach other people how to love themselves. And that's a very, very, very big power. And we see so many people get struck, use drugs and alcohol and all the negative things that we find in our society to not have to do that, or we haven't learned to do that, or we find it as self-destructive, or we learn it to self-medicate, or whatever we do with these substances. But the power of loving yourself is a really, really, really strong thing, and it's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do on this earth. But if you can do that, you've really done something.
If I can jump in with that, I of course 100% agree, and the reason why I think it's so hard to do is because we are born and we don't even know what that love is. When we are born to a people who also don't know what love is. You, as a person who reached the near-death experience or touched the source or love or whatever you want to call it, you know the vibrational frequency of the pure, unconditional love. Once you feel it, you know, and you can compare. And now, when you are born and you never have that memory of it, you only have the substitution, almost like a sweetened love. It's not the sugar, it's sweetened love. And you don't have the pure taste. So this is why it's so hard, Mike, is because people don't know what the true love is. They never experienced it. So that when they think it's a love, then they figure out, okay, how to manipulate it, how to control it, how to have it like a currency almost. But the pure love, like you said, once you have it, you want to share it. You want everyone to feel like that because it's like an ecstasy. It's just you can't hold it for yourself. It's just not possible. You just exude it, correct? It's like you can't stop that.
Right, and you feel like you want to, and I think people ask me all the time, now that you've been so lucky to even be alive, what is it? What's your purpose? I mean, what do you think your purpose is? And I think that's probably what one of my purposes is to teach people it's okay to love yourself. It's okay to feel love and to teach people how to love and to be able to smile at somebody who's not smiling a lot, or to give somebody a wink just because it's going to make them feel good about themselves, and just little things like that we can all do so simply, and put little things like that in life that just enhance other people's life, and how it makes you feel good about yourself, and it's going to make them feel a little bit better, and that's all it takes.
I'll jump in here on this a little bit as well. I remember, and this is a bit of an emotional moment for me, but when I had my near-death experiences, and I was already I knew my wife at the time. The only thing, it wasn't the car, it wasn't the house, it wasn't material things. It was nothing about that. Death is death. You come and you go. I mean, that's I wasn't afraid to die, but it was the love. It was the love and relationship and connection to other people, and just wishing to give love, receive love, and just the other thing, a beautiful, amazing thing about this is if you don't love yourself, how can you love anybody else? Is that even a possibility? Because if you don't know for example, if you don't know what the color yellow is, can you talk about color yellow? You can't. You have to know within yourself the truth of who you are, the truth of your true nature, and the fact that we have an unlimited healing potential. And what happened to Mike is not the only story in the world. It's actually more common than that. We had miracle stories in our center. We had a person, for example, with a stage 4 pancreatic cancer, older gentleman who actually beat the cancer, even though he was told that there was no chance whatsoever. The oncologists gave up on him, but same thing. He just resonated love. He was just pure love. He was pure soul, pure being, and he did it. Now, obviously, we did some intravenous therapy, vitamin C, ozone supplements, but my true ultimate belief is that it wasn't any of those things per se. It was the fact that his soul, his spirit desired to recover, to heal, to get through this. Do you want to jump in on that? When they only have just a couple of minutes, but then we can continue after the show.
I would like to jump in because I, again, 100% agree with it. And, we often talk about it, Sergey, that you especially as a doctor, you didn't came here to save the human body. We came here to save the soul, because the minute you save the soul will automatically lift the body and heal the body, because that's how powerful it is. And Mike is walking example of it. That we are just so much more than the physical. The physical is just following the soul.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and I found out, fortunately or unfortunately, I have placed my trust in several different doctors throughout the years that I probably shouldn't have placed so much trust in, by the fact that they were a doctor. And I think in our society we've been taught that when somebody's a doctor, you listen to what they say, and unfortunately, some of the health issues that I have were caused by drugs that were given to me that through doctors that have caused a number of massive problems in my life and in my health.
Number one cause of death, medicine.
Yeah.
That's it. I do want to mention something real quick, really brief before we go to a break, and then I want to continue with the conversation for as long as it organically flows, because this is a wonderful, amazing topic. So if we go beyond the hour, God bless. If you don't mind listening to us, we'll keep on talking. All right. I do want to mention our friends with tart cherry juice concentrate. It's a wonderful way to get your antioxidants, great for cholesterol, blood pressure, everything else, speaking of the physical body. Of course, we're soul and spirit to begin with, but it is one of the best things if you don't eat your veggies, and if you don't, please do, but take the tart cherry juice concentrate. One of the best things for your health. And I also want to mention our friends at Spring Valley, natural food store here in town. One of the best service places in town, and they carry all of our favorites as well. Essentials, youth, magnesium, and all the other things. Great place, great service, great people. And I think the show is almost over, but stay. We have 2 more minutes, and we'll continue talking for the next 2 minutes here. with all three of us. If there's a phone call in the next few seconds, we'll take it. But we'll continue talking after the show for the YouTube and the Facebook Live, because I'm not closing this topic until we run out of all the good things, and that might take a couple of years.
And there's a
Just
call.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So let's go.
There's a caller.
Let's continue for the next few, and then we'll round that up, and we'll continue on online.
There's a caller.
Yep.
Go
We
ahead.
have a caller.
Go ahead.
Oh, we have a caller. Let's finish with a bang. All right.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Yes, good afternoon.
How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm interested in finding out about workplace or healthcare anxiety and how to help with that. I'm a anxious person before the year 2020, and I'm barely getting through the day, working in a nursing home and going through the whole COVID experience.
It is difficult. I had dinner with my professional friends. They're working in oncology. We have 60 seconds, so I'm going to answer the question the best I can here. The healthcare workers are facing a tremendous pressure, tremendous responsibility, and we are in a place where it's nearly impossible to do our job. The environment is difficult, the rules are difficult, the guidelines are difficult. The best thing you can do is take care of yourself. And I think and please, if you're on YouTube or Facebook Live, please stay with us, because we're going to talk about other things. It's essential to remember that in all of that stress, and I want to speak to the healthcare professionals, all the people who are out there doing their best to survive in society, or just people, everyone. You are a spirit, you're a soul. Whatever is happening physically, yes, it could be challenging, it could be difficult, terrible, but remember your bigger, higher purpose. And that makes everything in perspective. Everything. And that's the short of it. But we'll continue the conversation after the radio is done.
5 seconds.
All right. Yeah, my pleasure.
Go ahead and wrap up. A minute. Hang on.
And we are post-show,
Mhm.
so whatever we're doing now is a complete bonus.
Mhm.
This is just a pure pleasure.
Mhm.
And if you're with us, welcome. If you're not, if you were listening to the radio but not online, you're missing quite a bit, because this is a wonderful conversation. So now, let's just continue talking, and let's make sure that we get the message across the way it's supposed to come across to whoever is willing and interested in listening. So let's jump back in here. We got two wonderful guests here. Mike Dobbs, who is actually, mind if I mention a couple of things about you?
Okay.
Mike is one of the most talented, incredible designers, creators of. He actually built our house, and it's I'm happy to be there. Now I'm going to ask Mike this question.
Sure.
Do you think your inspiration, because you've created some of the best, most amazing homes here in town, in Springfield, and you've done incredible work since, creativity and otherwise. Do you think, let me rephrase, how do you see the connection between that creativity and your soul, spirit, and otherwise?
When I design most of the homes I build, when I think of that, I don't only think of what you're going to experience in that house, but the people after you and the generations after that. And I think of the times that they're going to spend around the Christmas trees for the next 100 years, or the family conversations that they're going to have, or all the good times that people are going to have, or the romantic times they're going to have on the kitchen table. Or I think all of that, and I think what can I do around, what can I put in that house that's going to carry on through time? It's going to make people feel that little skip in their heart, or going to be able to smile at their kids, or put that little thing that's going to create those wonderful memories, and that they're going to talk about. And I used to think about that for my grandparents lived on this little farm, and I kept thinking, God, the memories of being around the Christmas table, or the memories of being in that old kitchen and things like that. I kept thinking, if I could reproduce that in today's homes, then I've done something.
And Lenka, jump in here, please, if you'd like. I think I'm detecting or sensing the presence of the same force at play, love.
Yeah.
Am I?
I believe that the creation is love. Love is creation. So, we know that people who understand a little bit of vibration and energy, that the vibration of love is all around us in the trees and our plants and everything.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
That. So when we tap into it, we cannot do anything but to create. When you're not in that plain vibration of love, you are down, which is destruction, right? So you have only two options. You can be on the lower vibrational field where there's the vibrations of hate, anger, depression, and all the others. And we've all been there, right? When you need to write a specific paper or you have to create something and you're sitting in this vibration and nothing comes through, nothing. And then you're like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to shut the book, close the door, get out. And change the vibe, literally. And all of a sudden it's flooding in. Like that idea in the shower. Why? Why do we get the greatest ideas in the shower? The creativity is in the water. The water carries vibrational frequency. And when we don't have to worry about anything else but to be with ourselves, because we take in a shower, there's no bills to pay, there's no bubbles to return in that shower. It's just you with you. And you are there with the source. And then that source literally has the light. If you can see the angels above you, like, finally, she's alone. Let's download. And so that's how the creativity comes in. But how much time alone do we truly have in that busy, crazy life of ours? We're going from morning coffee to drop off the kids, to run to the office, to buy the groceries, to come home and hopefully cook the meal. And then we quickly check our email and we crash. So where's our creativity?
All but pretty much gone.
So the next day we promise ourselves it will be different. So sometimes, and we can all share this, sometimes we have to be hit with such a traumatic experience like death and divorce and accident to shake us off. And then when death shakes us off and we're sitting in the hospital bed, that's when the creativity comes in and starts creating, oh my gosh, I missed all these opportunities. Oh, you know what, I'm changing my life. That's it. So we all can share these stories because I believe we all have them one way or another. And if you didn't, trust me, they're coming.
Yeah, I think something about a shower that somebody once told me that I still think is one of the most interesting things I've ever heard. I'm very creative in the shower too, and I'd ask this person, I wonder why you're so creative in the shower all the time. And he goes, it's really very simple if you think about it. I says, I've never really thought about it a whole lot, but why is that? He says, think about it. He says, you're imitating the womb. I says, what do you mean? What do you mean by imitating the womb? I'm in the shower. He says, you got all your clothes off. He said, you're in the water a little bit. He says, all the makeup comes off. All the everything that makes you something that you're not.
Oops, sorry.
Go.
Sorry.
Nope. Yep.
He said, so you're surrounding yourself by warm fluids. You're there without any clothes on. You're there without any makeup on. Your jewelry's off. And you're imitating the womb. You're imitating being in the warm womb of your mother.
Nature. And that, please, go ahead. Yeah.
Yep, I think we're sharing the same opinion in a different language, which is the same thing, which I love it. We can keep going on and explain it differently, but we all have these moments, quote, quote, in the shower. But it doesn't have to be in the shower. For me, it's going for a walk.
Right.
Going for a walk. And that's the funny thing is I actually listen to music. And it's almost like because I'm listening to music, I open up a different channel. And the channel is clear. I can't explain it. And I think that's why a lot of ADHD children can multitask and they have the ability to keep being an amazing creator. Because they could literally be upside down with headstands and still doing a mathematical calculation because the movement and then something that's occupying the brain, you still have this. There are different subjects here, but we're still talking about creativity. Is that as long as you have the desire and you're the person that almost like I want something different, the soul will try to get to you. And if you are busy, dreams come in. I mean, dreams are another language of the soul. It's just a little bit trickier for people to, see that. But obviously, that's not a new thing either.
Actually, I'd like to make a suggestion. At one point, actually, Lenka, you and me, I'd like to have another show talking about dreams and other things that are not well understood and the meaning and the significance. What do you think about that?
I love it because all of that is a communication of the soul. All of it, every single one thing that is mentioned. Because the personality is giving information that is very beneficial for itself, for the personality, for the self-survival, for the first three chakras. But anything beyond that is related to the soul, and that's the language that you have to learn. We all know it, but we forget it. We all forget it. And so, yes, dreams is the language of the soul. Intuition is the language of the soul. Symbolism is the language of the soul. But it just depends what dialect you speak. Absolutely, I would love it. That would be awesome.
Wonderful. We're going to make that happen. Now, another thing, and I just want to, there's so much to talk about, but I want to finish, round this off in the next few minutes, or if we take a little longer, that's okay. We're not on a time crunch right now. Let's talk about the fear versus love. I mean, it doesn't have to be just fear versus love, but let's talk about fear in our society, because fear is everywhere in our society. It's coming from the government, it's coming from all sorts of places, it's coming from the crumbling healthcare system. Well, fear is in the air, as it is. And yet, fear stands no chance when it comes to the force of love. And there's so many examples we can give. For example, the strength and courage of a mother saving her child. I mean, people can lift cars. There's no greater force. Let's talk about the fear and love in our society and how we can do things better.
Are you asking me or Mike?
Let's open it up. Both of us. Mike, you want to jump in?
I think that fear is what people use as a mechanism for control. You can control anybody if you could bring fear into their life. I think that's what governments use. I think that's what let's just face it, that's what drug companies use. That's what a lot of hospitals use. A lot of people use fear as a controlling mechanism, and I think that love is the antibody to that. I think that we have used that's been going on ever since about man's been on this earth.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have any fear of life or death after what you've been through?
I really have fear of death because I kind of look forward at some point to finding out where the next life's going to take me.
And Lenka, please, I know you were trying.
Again, once again, I agree with you guys. It is a manipulation tool for sure, and it's also very boxed up. So it has a kind of almost like a threshold where it hits you, and then you get literally, I call it constipated. It will box you in. The fear will box you in, and you cannot get out because you literally in that constipated mode of neurosis or paralyzed. And all of these words I'm saying, Sergey, when you see patients coming in with that vibration, they are riddled in fear, right? So that's
exactly.
how you see the manifestation of the energy of fear when it does to the physical body. And then you come to see a child who doesn't know what fear is, and they are as flexible and they're like rubber bands, right? Think about that. So why do we become so stiff? Age has nothing to do with it. I have seen Norm Shealy do crisscross applesauce not too long ago. Okay, so it has nothing to do with age, people. It has to do with the fear you carry in yourself. So why do we do that? Well, I guess it's a learned behavior for the last 2,000 years. And so it's not just us going against us. It is all around us. It's a vibration that we naturally, not even naturally, it's not natural, but it's almost like it's around us. It's very hard to avoid it if you don't have the guidance early on. If you are, I kind of find when you start looking at the very, the tribe, or even like a very primitive people, not primitive, like mentally simple.
Simpler societies. Yeah, simpler
Like,
societies.
you don't have a fear
Yeah.
because they don't have a luxury of fear.
Mm-hmm.
For them, it's just like now or never. So what are they afraid of? Dying? Well, if they don't eat, that's what then being scared of doing something crazy. So again, it becomes very fluid. Their bodies are very fluid, actually. So again, you very quickly recognize people with fear, riddled, constipated, paralyzed, or free, like they move with grace. So anyway, so that's how I see fear, and how it's very quickly you can recognize it in a person who vibrates love and who vibrates fear. And again, I don't associate fear with bad or low vibration. It is just nothing more than a program that's running, and it's not necessarily here for the greatest good of that person's potential, because it's boxing them in. But however, and you guys heard this before, so many people are fearing love because it's so foreign. They don't know what the hell to do with it. And it's like today I was talking to someone, and it was a different kind of a conversation. But I said, what are you fearing? And she said, I'm fearing the love, the expansion. Because what it can take me, what does that mean? If I'm that big, if I'm that good, if I'm that beautiful, if I'm that glowing, what does that mean? Where am I going to go with that? Then I mean I'm going to overshine other people. How are they going to feel about that? Think about that. We are fearing our own greatness.
Yes.
Nobody talks about that.
We are our own worst enemies.
Yeah, because then we have to actually look at the people around us who are just looking at us, and maybe they're not even wishing us that because we scare them.
Yes. Let's talk about some of the practical steps that people can start taking now. I just want to remind, it's year 2022. We've been through several years of incredible amount of fear, control, issues, problems. I'm not going to go into details or certain aspects that will get us censored and otherwise, but I just want to address the general concept of dealing with a fear-based society, because this is where we are. Fear of death, fear of illness, fear of crumbling healthcare system, fear of everything, literally. So what are some of the practical ways that a person can overcome their fear? And I want to start with some basics that we teach in our clinic, in our office. First of all, you have to remember that holism, spirit, soul, mind, body, I am a spirit, a soul being. And this is what I tell everybody. And Mike knows that, Jennifer knows that. My physical body has come, and it'll, at some point it will go. I'm okay with that. My mind is, well, hopefully I'm in control of it, but my thoughts, feelings, and emotions are properties. They are patterns of my life. Those patterns can be changed. I can learn to become a whole new being, to change everything. And the stronger the challenge, the stronger the opportunity, the stronger the stimulus. For example, for Mike, death. What stronger stimulus than that? To wake up, to realize who we are. And then there is no fear. It's just, what can we do? What should we do? And doing the right thing. Mike, you want to contribute a little bit?
Yeah, I look at it, like I say, every morning when I wake up, I promise myself, when I wake up, my eyes first open up, I can say, you know what? Today I promise myself, this is going to be the best day I ever have. And I think if everybody would just learn to do that, you'll get rid of the fear, you'll get rid of the bad feelings, you'll get rid of everything that's going to plague you throughout the day to make it the worst day you've ever had. And none of us needs to have the worst day we've ever had, or even have a bad day. And we create our own bad days. We invite the bad day to hit us, or we invite the bad day into our life that day. And all you got to do is wake up and just say, you know what? I'm alive. It's the best day I'm ever going to have. And if you just tell yourself and you really believe that, it can happen to you, and it will happen to you. And the next day you get up, you can say, it didn't quite work out exactly that way yesterday, but you know what I got today?
Isn't that what, actually, Lenka and I talk about this a lot of the time. Manifestation. What is the concept of manifesting the life that you want, life that you deserve, life that the heritage that we've been given from the Creator? Lenka, please. I know this is something you can go on for a long, long time, but if you can just kind of give us a couple of tools, well, or for the listeners, for us, just how do you? Well, go ahead, please.
Yes, again, of course, I agree 100% with both of you. However, in my practice, I see that where light is coming from is such a high, joyous vibration that people who is like you have that caller, the nerve, it's really hard. It's really hard to get up in the morning happy, wonderful thoughts. So when I meet person in my office and they not capable of reaching the higher vibration, I start with it is whatever it is. Own it. Just start right there. This is your foundation. Just be there. And be there. Feel it. Own it. And recognize it. Name it. And sit there as long as you need to. But one requirement is no judgment. Zero. No judgment. And once you sit there and you realize that, okay, I'm done with that, what else is there? Then you can start inviting things that you would prefer feeling versus what you have been felt for a little while. But if you don't name the vibration you are in or the feeling you are in, you don't even know where you're going. And so that's kind of like, yes, it's important to have that vision board for joy, but there's not very many people who can actually walking around in a truly joy vibration because it's so high. We have a very hard time being built in that vibration. Okay, so happiness is one thing, joy is very other. But if we can go to neutrality, just like Dr. Hawkins created the level of consciousness, I strongly recommend people to look into that book, Power versus Force, where you start and recognizing where you are, you bring it to neutrality, it is whatever it is, and then bringing love into it. And then the love becomes the creative force or power, I would rather say. Love becomes the power to create. If that is a more helpful, I can give other
No.
options.
You are wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I love it. One of the exercises, actually, I learned this from a friend. He's also a healer. And this is actually something that he does with people, and I started doing that with people too. For anyone, for example, who engages in a negative or counterproductive or just bad feelings, anxiety, depression, anger, frustration, just having a terrible day, and just kind of staying in that pattern because it's a choice. There is a freedom of choice between a stimulus and response. We get to choose our life, we get to choose our moments, and we get to choose our outcomes. That is the whole definition of responsibility, ability to respond. So this is a kind of silly homework I give to people, and please feel free to do so on your own when you're at home at some point. If you're going through some kind of a negative, let's say, you're angry or you're frustrated, and you're just keep staying there, you're not changing, it just the whole day just keeps going, maybe a week, maybe a year, maybe your whole life, you've been in that pattern. And a lot of people are. And it's associated with heart attacks, strokes, a lot of physical things. It's not a surprise. It's a consequence of a pattern, which a pattern of mental, emotional, physical, and that all comes from spirit and soul. And if you're connected or you're not connected. So the exercise that I give to people, or I tell my clients, is if you are feeling anger, frustration, or whatever, just say at the top of your lungs, just scream it out. I love being angry. I love being frustrated. I love all those terrible things. And if it doesn't sound like true to you, if it doesn't sound good, then stop it. Make a choice, make a decision. Right there, right then. Now, I know it's a little bit of an extreme example, but it's the same concept. Awareness, addressing it, and willingness to do something about it.
I love it. I'm learning it myself.
Mm.
This is so funny. I feel like it's just laughter and actually being silly and just laugh at yourself. That is
Yes.
the best medicine. It really is like it just dissolves so many of these low vibrations. And when you get into a situation and people are just too stiff with their low vibe, just laugh. You will see how quickly they run away from you.
Yes, and yes. Any other? We can talk for forever. I
I
mean,
would like to say
Yes,
Sergey.
please.
You know, you had this caller who was in the medical profession, and I would like to share the same thoughts as you had, that they are the medical profession, with the teacher profession, with our police forces, with anyone who's in service. They are our healers. We need to take care of them. They try to take care of us, and they don't have the power. The system is not allowing them to be the healers. The system don't allowing them to be the teachers. The system are not allowing them to be the protectors, because their power is taken away, and they are struggling because they love what they do. And it's every single one of us, when we can appreciate them, when we give them love back, and just say thank you. That's how they get boosted. They go home and they fall asleep and they say, my day was wild because Mrs. Smith just thanked me. Sometimes the gratitude, not sometimes, gratitude is one of the highest vibrations. And when we can look at another human being, just like Mike said, with the gratitude and joy for their own existence. That's how they can refuel their soul, and their soul will refuel their exhausted body.
I'm just going to bring a personal example. For the past several weeks, especially everything going on, I mean, the volume of the clinic tripled. I've been doing a lot of emergency work, a lot of people with bad outcomes. And again, as much as I realize death is a part of the existence, it affects me. It does. I mean, I'm still a human being. I still see them while they're alive, and then what happens is they're dead. Again, it's not, to me, it's a transition. Whatever happens next, again, that's a great unknown. I don't get to tell people what's there, but the bottom line is we all are humans. We're all under tremendous stress, tremendous obligation right now, and we are doing the best we can under the system. Now, I just want to remind, the system may not be good. As a matter of fact, none of the systems around us are really good, whatever the systems are. But the humans are amazing. We as humans, we are sentient human beings. If we forget who we are, the system gets to control us. If we remember who we are, the power comes back to us. It comes back to Mike, it comes back to Rianka, it comes back to me, it comes back to all of you, everybody out there. Question is, are you willing, are you interested in reclaiming that power? Because that power comes with responsibility as well. So that's where.
Sergey, that was beautiful. Honestly, if we end right there, I think you gave power to every single individual listening to you tonight. That was awesome, because you ended with the most important thing. We are so much more than human bodies. We are the souls that searching and came here to enlighten. We are like the light beings, like the fireflies flying around and bringing light to the world.
Thank you for both of us to be here, Mike.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure. It's an honor. And by the way, Mike is still doing great projects and creating amazing works and working on a number of things as if nothing happened, basically. And if Mike can do it, I know I sure can. So, Lenka, thank you so much. This is not the first or this is not the last time you're going to be on our show. If you don't mind, I would love to have you back. And
my pleasure. And you coming straight here to Florida, so maybe Mike, if you want to come, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It's not hard to stay away from Naples, trust me.
so around February we'll have there's a conference in Florida happening, right? That I'll be joining you on. Yeah, I would love that. Perfect. Well, thank you. God bless. I guess that's all. We'll see you at the next week radio, and stay strong. Take care.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
Okay.